should we just jump in, Andy?
Sure, man. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you in Seattle?
I'm in Seattle. Yeah.
Seattle.
So
Yeah.
it probably looks somewhat similar out the window
Yeah.
to where you're at. It's been a little cold. We had a tiny little bit of snow, but it's always kind of, it's like it didn't snow at our house, but it snowed, 5 miles
Yeah.
from here.
I did have a couple questions when
Yeah, yeah,
appropriate about
yeah.
how is so you beat that 5 year thing. Like are you still growing?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we're, at some point I should probably go back in my archive and actually like figure this out definitively. But, I think this is like probably this month marks our 10th year in business
Mm-hmm.
as Everyone Social. I think we launched our first client in 2012, like late December 2012. So
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well,
yeah,
it's been fun to watch you do it and how it transformed from into what it is. I mean, you're giving it away free for some people.
yeah,
And that's you're like, look, I can't spend my time on that, and it's great introduction. And when people see the power, especially here, they're like, wow. That's what they're saying to me. When like, I talked to this guy who's just getting his MBA last night, and he was like, I was sitting there, and I kept seeing these posts that they were all branded the same, and I was like, how is this happening? And then he learned who we were, and he wants to work for us. And he goes, and he wasn't BS. He was just like, I'm in awe. Like when you can get 100 or 4,000 people to all leverage that relationship, it makes a difference. Like we can see it. So I'm excited to speak with you today
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
So
No, I appreciate that, Andy, and
yep.
appreciate your support over the years for sure. Let
Yeah.
me,
Well, thanks.
why don't we start? So
Sure.
as discussed, we'll just kind of do this for 30 minutes. I'll kind of run through the questions I shared, pretty simple stuff. Mostly want to hear you talk. So I'm mostly just going to ask the questions, but, happy to take this kind of whatever direction we want to go. And why don't we start out with just you and your role? Would
Sure.
love to get a background on that.
Cameron, thanks for having us here today from the state of West Virginia. My name's Andy Malinoski, obviously, and I'm the Director of Communications at the West Virginia Department of Commerce. And what we do, and the way I like to summarize that, is we help promote the wealth, beauty, opportunity here in Almost Heaven, yes, West Virginia.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being with us, Andy. This is a little bit of a softball question, but I think those listening will benefit from kind of hearing your story. Mm-hmm. Why invest in an employee advocacy program in your role with West Virginia? And I know it goes back a bit further than that for you.
Sure, Cameron. I've been really fortunate to be using your product for probably more than 8-9 years, and through all of its changes and improvements. And what I've seen as from a marketer's perspective, I have a foundational belief in reach, frequency, and trust. I need to reach as many people in the cohort that I'm trying to reach as often as I can in an environment that they trust. And that has gotten harder to do in my 30-year career in marketing. And what I found is that if I can have an advocate, a person, an employee, someone who cares or actually uses a product or service or an experience, and they present it into what I call the socialization of media, face, my name, what I do, and here's a piece of content, they're more likely to engage with it. They're more likely to trust the source with all of the things that you and I and the world has been through, and how easy it is to look like legitimate information when someone you are connected to in some way shares a piece of information that said, consider this. People are more likely to believe it, more likely to engage with it, and more likely to consume it. And because of your product and because of what we do with other platforms, I'm able to prove that. And our quest to promote the livability, the economic development opportunities here in West Virginia, the career opportunities here in West Virginia, the small business opportunities here in West Virginia, the cultural opportunities here in West Virginia. As we promote those, your platform is a big part of it in the way that people engage with that content and consider doing what we're asking. go to the concert, visit the city, bring your business here, expand your business here. And it's working. And it's really a joy to be in the position I'm in right now, because it's a beautiful place to live. And your product helps us tell people about that.
Previously, I know you were with a telecom company, which I think is probably where we started working together. And I think I've seen over the years, some of the more kind of exciting use cases for us are those that are really kind of people centric. So I don't know if you have any thoughts in terms of kind of your prior work versus what you're doing for West Virginia. I mean, the work you're doing is trying to convince people, right, to consider moving to West Virginia, consider investing in West Virginia. And that seems very kind of tailor-made towards leveraging social and leveraging employee advocacy. I don't know if you have any anecdotes or thoughts to share on that point.
Here's the journey that I've been on with you, and I was stunned by this. For a large company, business to business sales, positioning the employees in a employee advocacy program as experts on connectivity and technology. We used it that way, so that I was saying, here is the latest technology, here's the problems that it solves, here's the benefit to you for doing business or having a relationship with me. And by empowering that workforce, I think at the time we had the circulation or reach of the Tampa Bay Times across the country. Like, that was powerful stuff. And not only will we have the ability to reach the people, they were engaging with it. So when John Smith or Jane Smith would walk into a meeting at their local level, they were seen as a technology advocate. Then I changed roles, and I was able to use the platform in a similar way for a 10-person HR company. And I said, look at this, use this. And within 60 days, they were positioning themselves in the community that they were connected to as HR professionals that were able to solve small businesses' staffing, training, and compliance problems. And what blew me away was 22,000 employees, or 10, the theory or the practice of advocacy worked in both. So then we've used it here. It works in tourism. It works in livability. It works in economic development. I've seen it work in media, newspapers empowering their employees to share the content they're already creating drives traffic to content that they paid to have created, which boosts the readership or the audience. What is really powerful to me is I really don't care what company you are. You can try to make an excuse that this won't work for you, but I disagree completely. I've seen it work. Fortune 50, 10-person HR consulting firm, recruitment. It is powerful when you reach people where they are through the fragmentation of media, and the way that it's fragmented is social. So, a lot of people are like, I'll never use Twitter. I'll never get on this. I'm like, well, good for you. You're not going to talk to your customers. Go ahead. I'll talk to them. That's the way I look at it. So
yeah,
it's working. Yeah. I think there's a use case in everything, honestly. Our economic development professionals, there's a gentleman who lives in Tucker County, West Virginia, one of the most beautiful places you could ever want to hike, bike, ski. And 2 years ago, he had no social media presence whatsoever. Today, he gets leads every week from his social media activity. Now, is that your fault or everyone's social's fault? It's a tool that we use. We give him great content that has to do with what he does, from craft breweries to timbering to aerospace, airplane repair and maintenance organizations, or plastic companies that recycle and things like that. But now he has the ability to be an advocate for himself, to be an advocate and solve his professional and personal goal to achieve those things. And the platform empowers him to do it.
Well, I appreciate hearing that, Andy. And I think it's cool to see your experience from, very large organization to 10-person organization, because I think that's something that, we've also seen as well. I think most good things need to work at any level of scale. And, for kind of the early years for us, we mostly just worked with big organizations. And it's more in the last kind of 2-3 years that we've had some small clients sneak in, folks like you who worked at some other bigger company, and then we're doing something smaller, and they said, hey, look, I know you guys don't do this, but give us access. And it's been fun to see it succeed at kind of all levels. One question for you, why Everyone Social versus anyone else in the space?
I need to prove, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste the people that I convince to invest in themselves in this kind of work, because that is something that most people overlook. It's time. But the data that Everyone Social empowers us to see the results, I can tell exactly what works, what doesn't. And that if I ask people for a half hour every other day, or twice a week, that they sit down and think about what they're going to share, how they're going to share it, what they need us to create for them to share, what their problems are, and then to schedule their content so that they can do their job. And I want it to be of value to them. So it's a platform that I can stand on, and I have not found one. I mean, just honestly, when I have calls with people that want me to use their platform, I find that I'm teaching more, because we've done this for so long. You're a leader in the industry, you're in the space, and with the experience that I've had, it is very easy to turn on someone's Everyone Social account and then they sit there and don't use it. It's like having a gym membership that you never use. I don't know why. If I don't go and do the work and I don't invest the time, I'm not going to be successful. And I think that this tool, the flexibility of it, the way that you listen to customers, I have seen where I'm like, oh, this feature went away, I needed it, and you figured out a way to solve that, or this is a need that we see. Someone in my position cannot spend the time to have a relationship with the technology and the interface of Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. You do that work so that we can easily and seamlessly use those platforms and take advantage of their algorithms and how different they are. Mm-hmm. So that did I answer? I think I answered the question.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Where does advocacy rank kind of amongst, maybe two questions? What are all the things you're involved with from a marketing and comm standpoint right now? Mm-hmm. And where does advocacy kind of sit in that basket?
Sure. We've got kind of three buckets here. We have our agency environment. So you would see the West Virginia Development Office, the West Virginia State Parks social media feeds, their websites. We have a video team where we create content, blogs, and those are intake mechanisms. So we want to drive traffic there to get them into our sales funnel. So you have that traditional, what you could also call a business. Like if I was a technology company, I would have here's how smart we are, here's how good we are, here's the problems we solve, content, writing, and such. So we have that agency stuff, and that is sometimes used in Everyone Social. We take content from there, put it in, and send it out to our advocates for them to promote it. We have the advocates. We have this network of, of a large number of people who care about West Virginia and economic development, tourism, livability, advocates that are some outside of state, that instead of me finding the West Virginia influencer, I use the 5,000 connections of someone who lives here, who is doing doing good work here, either in technology, aerospace, or tourism, and they share that. So the more people they connect with, we get that other universe. So I have the personal one, the agency one, and then we have a platform called the Daily 304. Now, the Daily 304, West Virginia has one area code. It's 304. People that live here and have lived here know that. That's our phone number. And we have 3 stories every day that we promote that are about things that are going on in West Virginia. Some of those we are curating from outside third-party validated sources. About 40% of it we create here at the Department of Commerce, and we populate that onto there. And it helps people connect with the services of government, infrastructure, economic development, mountain stage, live music from West Virginia, cultural events all over the state. And on that platform, we have, it's like kind of a magazine. It's a history, innovators and entrepreneurs. We have interviews with people who are like taking coal and turning it into foam that's on the outside of SpaceX rockets. Like that's crazy stuff. Carbon fiber to the future from West Virginia. Yeah. And it's on the Daily 304. So we have these 3 environments that we kind of meld into Everyone Social and then push that out. And just the reach and engagement's been amazing. And the Daily 304 is a podcast. So we have a 3-minute daily, a 9-minute every other week, innovators and entrepreneurs, a 3-minute history every week, a 7 to 8 minute what to do this weekend thing that takes you from Wheeling to Welch, Martinsburg to Matewan. And we're starting a food thing called Crave, West Virginia, and a live music audio feed every month from a small music store here that's West Virginian singing original West Virginian songs, not maybe what some people just thought of, real folksy stuff. Some of it's rap, some of it's rock, some of it's stuff that you've never heard, to try to, again, just build that audience. So when we have news, when we have information and we want consideration, we've given that algorithm of each individual what they want, and then they would be exposed to the other information. You know, if I'm not on somebody's pocket, on their supercomputer, which we call phones, I'm not going to reach them. It's just too fragmented. And everyone's social helps us fragment our marketing strategy, as fragmented as media is today. You know,
how important has it been to have kind of beyond the platform? How has it been working with our client success team? How important has that been as a resource to you over the years?
There has never. This is a beautiful thing to be able to say. Nothing that we've brought to your attention hasn't been fixed, addressed. It's seamless. Data I need, support I need if I'm drowning and I need help, even though I have the power to do it. Your team has helped me. The new help resource library is outstanding. It's saved me personally tons of time, not having to show somebody how to connect account or answer a question. They can do that on their own. The ticketing and resolution process is seamless. I know that if I hand off someone who's having trouble with something, I get notice when it's resolved and I don't have to worry about it. So, from a client success, from a client service, from a product reliability, it's one of the best experiences I've ever had with any company. And I'm just not saying that. It's just like, it is really good. You build a really good team there to help support.
Appreciate that. How important would you say it is to kind of the overall success of a program?
Of our overall marketing and outreach, my hesitation is that I don't know exactly. The old, like, Wrigley's, they're like, which half of my advertising doesn't work, right? But I will tell you that it is a major part of what we are doing. When we go out into the market, people are like, I just see all this good information. Mm-hmm. It's more of it's not brand awareness. It's perception and it's perspective. And what it's allowed us to do is it's positive. I mean, you know this better than anybody. The social media machine is geared to have negativity happen, to feed on crisis. People interact with that stuff more. So what we're doing is using it, trying to fight that. We're trying to edit the internet and put out positivity, things that aren't not puffery, things that are legit. I mean, we had a company last week that is taking coal waste from old mines and found an effective, efficient way to get rare earth material, metals out of it, and to reclaim all of that. Now, when they scale that, the things that people are like, oh, bad mining. Well, no, now good mining. Now coal's too valuable to burn because we're making carbon fiber products out of it. Defense and resiliency, like, we're far enough away from Washington, D.C., and our cost of doing business here is so much lower that federal agencies for their business continuity plans are moving here so that they're fulfilling the stability and security of the nation. Now, those are facts. I can't make that up. It's an EV production, like Green Power is a company making electric buses for schools, school buses in South Charleston. Berkshire Hathaway just invested and is going to build a solar-powered titanium production plant. You're going to take a recycled titanium to make airplane parts in West Virginia. When I say that, it's like most people don't know that because the news media, not damning them, doesn't have the time, focus, or expertise to be able to tell that story. They're more chasing things and trying to survive on clicks.
Exactly.
So what this does is when people say, Andy, you know what we need to do in West Virginia? We just need to tell our story. And I'm like, go ahead. Here's your account. Connect to everybody that you want to tell that story to and share our content. You will succeed. And it worked, Cameron. It's been a beautiful thing to watch grow.
What are your goals as you look forward over the next year or so as it relates to the employee advocacy program?
There's the overall one. You know, we have a staff of about 20 folks here that every day we get up to share the wealth, beauty, and opportunity of West Virginia with the world. But we also are audience acquisition. We want to grow our engaged audience through all of the channels that we have. Just one metric, I mentioned the Daily 304, it's doubled in size every 6 months. If there was a media company doing that anywhere, people would be doing backflips. Our overall engagements for the 40 social media channels that we manage across state government are up 36% year over year. I want to keep reaching more people. This comes from Sergio Zyman, who used to be the chief marketing officer at Coke. I want to reach more people more often with a message of consideration about what I want, what we're trying to do here, indefinitely. And everyone's social. The work we do in content generation is making that happen. And not just impressions, but engagements, clicks, likes, reshares, comments, you know, truly doing something with that one piece of information that we gave them 16 times over the past 12 months, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the kind of what you're touching on is there's, you know, kind of the traditional approach to media and marketing, which isn't necessarily gone, right? I mean, we engage in that, you're engaged, you know, everyone is engaged in that to some degree, but really drive it's a bit of a different thing, you know. The engagement in particular as it relates to social, I mean, you've seen all the stats, you've seen them yourself with your own results. It's just a fundamentally different set of results when you put content in someone's hand to share and promote versus, you know, promoting through a brand channel, pay channel, et cetera.
You want to talk about culture? When a person says, this is what I do, this is what I love, this is the thing that I do at work, and is a very, very different dynamic. You have to like where you work. You have to believe in what you do. You know, I think sometimes, you know, there's a big, the other goal that I have, like if I have 100 people in an advocacy program, I know that right out of the gate, 60 to 70 of them are going to be on fire. They're going to be like, yay, this is cool. But then they get tired and then they diminish. And then you have to go back to the folks that one, there's a group that will never do anything. They'll say they will, but they won't do it. So what's the reason they're not? You know, is there something wrong with what I'm giving them? It's not solving their problem. I haven't explained the value. Where do I take the marginals? You know, the sixth, seventh, and eighth person who constantly needs every 3 months a reminder to keep going to the gym. But I think if you started an advocacy program and only 10 people out of 100 participated, you probably have a culture problem. And that's something
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree, which is one of the, you know, it's a kind of, for us, it's kind of a blessing and a curse because like not every company and organization out there has solid, great cultures. And I think you're totally right. You know, I mean, you can have, it affects everything, right? At a basic level, I think it's about trust and permission. You know, we see that with kind of our greatest clients, big or small. They're the ones where senior leaders are saying, you know, we're not going to try to overly control this thing. Like we're trusting our people to make the right decisions. And I mean, we're talking organizations with tens or hundreds of thousands of people. And that is that's not something that like we can advise on, right? We meet a client who says, no, we have to control this thing down. And, you know, we can kind of paint the picture of like, Well, look, the more you allow your people to do, the more you trust them in this realm, you know, the more interesting and successful the results. I mean, because that's where the magic happens. And I know you've seen
Yeah.
it, right? You trust
Oh
people to
man.
do because you can't predict what they're going to do. But
Well,
if you lock it down, then they don't have the ability to do that.
I'll give you two insights into that. One, empowering people with this information that half of them didn't know anyway made them
Mm,
feel better about their job. It improved the culture because they had the ability to understand what the reality was instead of always hearing um, negativity. When I'm saying, no, look, this is real. Here's a small business person thriving. Here's an
mm,
innovation that's happening in your backyard. Here is cultural events that you didn't even know about because nobody's covering them the right way. Here's
mm-hmm.
all this crazy stuff that's being invented right down at this plant down here at this research and development facility. And people are like, what? Holy cow. Suddenly I feel better. Like if my company is doing, I don't care what it is, 10,000 company or public organization. If you, it's almost like an intra with an A net that people are like, oh, we aren't so bad. Oh, that complaint I got this morning that jaded my entire morning was only one thing out of thousands of good things. You know,
Mm,
it's perspective. So I think an advocacy program that is led by leaders that are bought in, not just like, why don't
yes.
you do my posting for me, Jimmy? You know, I'm like, no, you're either engaged or you're not. The other thing about the control side, you know, if I'm part of a company and I'm an employee, you're going to monitor and manage my social activity. Are you going to monitor and manage when I go out to dinner? I'm in public. It's public. That's
Mm,
it. People behave or they don't behave. If they don't behave, they probably shouldn't be your employee. Like, quit trying to, you know, you can't control that. As I don't care if you're CEO of whatever, people are people. So you have good employees, you have people that care, you have people that know how to behave. Those are the people I want on my team. Those are the people I empower with content. Those are the people that love whatever it is, whether it's that 10-person HR company or that, you know, very large tech company. They, um, they liked the opportunity to tell people what they do, what problem and benefit they bring to the world. And that's what this helps do.
yeah, I like that. It is in public, you know, and I think that's one of the great kind of advantages of at least a rewarding aspect for us is, you know, there's a lot of products where maybe it's in the business world, right, where it's used by an employee, but it really doesn't create any value for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marginal, but you know, it's really about creating value for the company. And you've heard us say this many times. Our belief has always been you've got to start with the employee, right? It doesn't matter who the organization is. If the employee is successful and they find value and they continue to come back and engage and share on a sustained basis, that creates value for your organization, which then creates value for us. But if we get that mixed up, right, if it's totally top down, all about the company, and the presumption is, well, our people are just going to do this,
Yeah.
it may work for a short period of
See,
time, but you know, it's not going to be sustainable.
Cameron, I'm sitting here laughing because I'm also like a historical advertising person and management person. I know I can
Mm,
find what you just said in a Peter Drucker or an Ed or a Deming book. This is not new. It's just different. It's like I remember
totally.
when I got a pager. You know, everybody thought the world was going to implode when the fax machine was going to ruin service. You know, oh, everybody's going to send faxes and never see each other anymore. It's just cell phones, same thing. You just have to adapt, and this is a way. What I love about Everyone Social and advocacy programs is they're a way to empower yourself, or no, it's a way for, oh, how do I say this? It's a way to harness the power of true personal relationships because that's what people did anyway. Hey, do you know a roofer? Yeah, call Jim. Don't call him because he'll mess you up. That's all social is. It's simpler. There's lower barriers now. And,
Hmm.
you know, I think it's basic management. It's all, you always start with your employees, you know, whether you're leading,
Exactly.
you know, so that's wonderful. So you know, you keep going. I appreciate again the opportunity to be here today.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I think, you know, one of the other things we're thinking about a little bit is, you know, as the world is changing even again here, and, you know, for many organizations, budgets are tighter, and but at the same time, like a number of large marketing 2023 surveys indicate that social's number one. Investment in influencers is kind of like right behind that. There's been a lot of talk about community over the last few years, and community, I think, is a thing that a lot of people talk about and a lot of people don't know. And I don't purport to like have, kind of the be all end all answer. I just think it's a complicated thing. But the interesting thing, and I think something that most people just, in particular in the business world, kind of completely neglect or miss is like their strongest community is their employees. And they're right there and they want to jump in and participate and be active. And really there's in many respects, no better community that you can start with in terms of kind of your inner ring. And so anyways, it's something that you touching on kind of, the employee side of it. It's for us that remains as the core. And we even have some clients who are starting to kind of think about it no longer as employee advocacy, but just advocacy in general. We had a client, Qualtrics, that does a lot of like big events. They have their big kind of annual X4 event, and they've started to incorporate advocacy features into their event promotion campaigns for people who just register for the event. So non-employees saying like, oh, Andy, thank you for registering. Why don't you share the fact that you've just registered it or what you're hoping to get out of the experience? And, I think that starts to show that you can kind of go out from that, inner core of even just employees. But I really think if you don't start with your own people, it's going to be really hard to make it happen.
I completely agree with you. And, every program that I've started, which now I think I'm on 5, always started with me and one other person, and then 2. And then those 2 people said, you need to get in this. This is cool. This is like what we do. And then you have like 10. And then it just grows. That's the other thing. I hope that anybody listening to this, don't kid yourself thinking it happens like, oh, we've got an advocacy program. No, it takes time and it takes work and it takes strategy and it takes commitment. But man, when it is humming, when I can drive 15,000 clicks to a thing that I wanted to be seen, that is significant research and innovation opportunity for an economic development deal, that's powerful. And when it's in a publication that is designed and built and distributed to people that can make those decisions, and we're on a list that we weren't on before, I know that's really, really valuable, because it wasn't like they opened a magazine and saw, come to West Virginia. They're reading something written by somebody else that the person they trusted and talked to said, just consider this. That's really power. That's power. And, I'm grateful to the company, and I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but Adobe, when I first read the story about what they were doing probably 10 years ago, they have an advocacy department. What is that? And their employees were like, we love our stuff. Our stuff's the best. I'm going to tell the world about it. Try it. And man, it worked, So I've always wanted to create the best advocacy program on the planet. That's what I would always tell Cameron, the person who introduced the product to me on your staff. I'm like, he's like, what's your goal? I'm like, I want to have the best advocacy program on the planet. And I feel really confident that we're on our way to do that. It works really, really well, and it's benefit us immeasurably from the investment we make in it.
Well, I appreciate that, Andy, and I appreciate your time. I'm glad we could have a chance to chat. I'd love to do so again in a couple quarters. And
absolutely, thank you for your faith and letting us get it built here. You're a great leader, and I'm excited to continue on the journey with you and figure this out as it changes.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Social at Scale podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please be sure to subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, please let me know. You can access past episodes on our site at everyonesocial.com/podcast. As always, please feel free to connect with me directly on Twitter or LinkedIn, and look forward to seeing you next time.